Discussing politics these days with people in our inner circle who may not believe what we believe is right up there with getting a root canal. But many of us believe those discussions are necessary to find common ground for our country's sake. The Braver Angels organization wants to get us to the table, Democrats and Republicans talking to one another. It's happening. What I found really fascinating is you did something called the Reduce the Rancor bus tour, and that was across greater Minnesota. Scott, I'll start with you. Tell me a little bit about, first of all, how that came to be and what exactly was that tour all about?
Melinda was actually part of the founding crew, sorry.
That's okay.
with that. It was you and Bill Doherty, if you want to...
How did this whole thing start?
Okay, so what happened is we had talked to the McKnight Foundation about getting a grant and heard nothing until a year later when they offered us some money. Mm-hmm. And so we came up with the idea of doing the bus tour. So it was Bill Doherty who helped co-found Braver Angels nationally, and some other leaders, and we came up with the idea of doing the bus tour, which is what National had done when they started in right after President Trump was elected the first time.
All right.
So
you went to 6 towns: Wilmer,
Worthington, Wilmer, Fergus Falls, Moorhead, Bemidji, and Brainerd.
All right, so you've got this concept of the whole point of Braver Angels is to take people from both sides, red and blue, and find common ground. Because we know these are not easy times to be, specifically if you're talking about politics. It's like, nobody wants to talk about it unless you're, obsessed and you have people around you that might be of the same ilk. But what made you, the two of you, decide to get involved with this? And this was, quite a while ago, quite a few years ago.
Well, I decided to get involved with Braver Angels because it fit perfectly with what my life has been about, which is as a newspaper reporter, covering issues, many contentious issues, school desegregation, school closings. I've covered a lot of contentious school board meetings and other kinds of meetings. And so this seemed like an opportunity to bring people together who don't see things the same way, mm-hmm. and still have productive conversations, not to particularly change people's minds, but to bring about a greater degree of understanding about the other side and to dispel a lot of the stereotypes that many people carry in their heads about the other side.
Okay.
Because those stereotypes are often inaccurate.
So we tend to put people in boxes, blues and reds, and therein lies the problem because we're people. And our opinions are, can come from many different places. A couple podcasts ago, I had mentioned a conversation that I had with a guy named Clay, who I sat next to on an airplane, and we discussed politics the entire time for 2.5 hours. And he was conservative, and I am not. And I made that is obvious. But we were able to continue the conversation and hit a lot of different subjects, including, gun legislation and religion, and we covered all kinds of things. And we were actually able to hold a civil conversation. And I couldn't help but notice also that the people around us were watching our conversation at some point after we'd been there for a while, that I thought, okay, this is doable. And I was one of those people like, I don't know. You put up the walls when people might say one thing that upsets you, like from the other side. So, Scott, is there I know you said you're not really, you're not so much focused on politics, but was there one subject or issue that brought you into this organization?
The church I was going to back in 2018 asked to have people just do a talk. It's not my nature to go and do a talk on things, but they said, okay, start with a prompt that you might think that blah, 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 but let me tell you a story. And so I was thinking, well, you might think that Minneapolis is very open to all things, but let me tell you a story. And it was basically of me putting a different yard sign up in my yard than what everyone else has, being a South Minneapolis resident. And I thought, well, this will be a curious thing. People will start to have some good conversations because they obviously know that I might think differently. And I couldn't even get back in the house, and yet I had a neighbor coming out of her house screaming at me, like full force screaming. And, it's like she's watched my kids. I mowed their lawn. I watched,
Okay.
shoveled. And the same thing happened when friends dropped off our kids. We kind of carpooled our kids together to school. And so I told that story. And because I told that story, then someone who knew about Braver Angels said, hey, I don't know another red-leaning person. We want to do a workshop. And one of the things about Braver Angels is that you need to have a red and a blue-leaning person to handle leadership positions. So it's really unique about Braver Angels. And so they got into that. And that was 2018 then. And then at some point they asked, hey, we'd like to start an alliance. And they reached out, who wants to hear more about it? So I said, okay, I'll hear more about it. And then I got announced that I was the co-chair. I didn't get to talk about it. And so it's more like just little things like that. So for me, it's more like if you see something, do something. I want people to get along. I want to be able to ask people, like a self-proclaimed Lou, because there's going to be experiences that I'm never going to have. And how can I be able to have those shared experiences, and we can talk about it, that I'll learn something new if we put up these barriers like you mentioned, like that, because ideologically we're different. And it's no fun.
No, it's not. And there might have been a comment or two at the beginning of the conversation that I had with Clay that I thought, am I going to be able to do this? But there was a part of me, and I know curiosity is something that is important for people who are going to represent Braver Angels. It's like you've got to kind of maybe put your stuff aside for a minute and ask why somebody might feel a certain way about a subject.
A lot of the things that we teach in our skills workshops, we have one called Skills for Disagreeing Better, and we teach the LAP skills, and they're very simple. Listen, acknowledge, pivot, and perspective. That all sounds simple. Some of the things in this workshop everybody knows, but then there's other things that they're very powerful ideas that nobody's ever thought about. And I think people don't necessarily understand all the time what it takes to actually listen to someone.
It's a skill.
It's definitely a skill, and it's a skill that I have to practice every day, is listening in a way that I get what they're saying and that I can actually reiterate it to them so that they understand that I understood them. And we don't often do that because we're programmed to respond. And so that response comes up and blocks out the listening a lot of times. So we do teach those skills in our work in one of our workshops, and they're very valuable. Thank you for taking the time to have that conversation with the person on the plane, because what I have discovered, a couple of things I've discovered.
Okay.
It's not my job to change your point of view. And this was a big moment for me when this hit me, because my late husband used to say, my tombstone would read, "She knew best." And he got me a coffee mug that said, "Mrs. Always Right." So I'm a person clearly with strong opinions. And when I realized that it's not my job to change your opinion, but as a citizen, I think it is my job to listen to the opinions of people who disagree with me. And so that's what I've been doing, practicing that. And it's very enlightening, and it's very satisfying in a way that you can't even imagine until you've actually had one of those conversations, those productive conversations where you're not trying to change a person's mind, but you're just trying to, where are you coming from? How did you come to hold this point of view?
My concern, being formerly in the news business, is the way people are consuming news. They are definitely in echo chambers. And, if people are reading, a conservative or a right-leaning newspaper or watching either one of those on television, if they're not finding, I guess, a middle ground for information, I'll use the Associated Press, and I use that just because I know that these are a team of journalists, and they are probably, I think, one of the good sources to go to, but not everybody's going to have that app or whatever on their phone. For instance, is there a particular newspaper or place for people to go to get their information that isn't skewed right or left? Has that come up at all in the conversations?
Absolutely. One is called allsides.com, and they have some very interesting resources, and they actually rate or place various news outlets on a scale of how far left they are, or how left they are, or how right they are, or where they are in the middle. And so that's one side. There's another online news source that I use called Tangle. They present, here's what the conservatives are saying about this issue. Here's what the liberals are saying about this issue. So you get you get those, at least those two sides. We can't really forget the libertarian point of view, because the libertarians have their own point of view,
Yeah.
and I don't know that they'd want to be lumped in with either one of those sides.
Oh, what about you, Scott?
You did mention the conversation with Clay, but you didn't mention how you felt afterwards having that conversation with someone, because you said you went into it with trepidation.
I felt great. I felt enlightened. I felt hopeful.
And that's,
I was surprised.
but that's I guess the experience that I want people to think about. Not think about the doom and gloom and how painful it's going to be, but what's the carrot versus the stick of, oh, I should talk to people. We have a problem with polarization. Yeah, but what am I going to get out of it by talking to people and finding common ground and all the cool things that we do for it? So thank you for sharing that. But you also mentioned the word curiosity, and that is, we talked about all sides. All sides actually has a red-blue dictionary. So we don't even use the same language, or we can use the same words, but they don't necessarily mean the same things to each side. So the red-blue dictionary is kind of an interesting starting point or talking point at times too. Like, what does the word equity mean to you? What does it mean to me? It might be the same word, but it has a very different feeling and meaning. And so curiosity is one word, though, that seems to be okay for blues and be okay for reds. It's an actionable word for a red. A lot of times reds want to be doing something and not just talk. And it doesn't seem to be confrontational or problematic to blues. So I think staying in a conversation because you're curious, why does this person think that way? What's the story behind it? And I know Bill Doherty talks about this a number of times. For every strong emotion or every strong statement, there's probably a story behind that. And can you be curious enough not to talk about the issue or the feeling, but what is the story? Tell me more. Can you tell me more about where you came to that opinion or how you came to that idea? And I think curiosity can bridge all the stuff about the news sources, because we're talking about values and concerns. We're not talking about facts. And I think people get we heard this even at the other evening after we did a talk after a theater production, and people say, well, what do I do with those people? They don't even believe the truth. They don't even believe the facts. And it's like, well, what are the facts? The facts you get from your news sources are not the facts I might get from my news sources, and is that even important? But if I find out what are your values, it's like you care deeply as a mom, as a parent, as your community or environment or whatever things are, what are we finding that are our values and our concerns? And that, I think, can bridge all the conversations a lot of times about news.
Yeah.
Or how we can seal it or consume it. And then you talk about consuming things, and it just makes me, we follow news. It's like we're not really in this news, we follow it or we consume it. And how does that change us? So there's a lot of things I think about, like how do we just metaphorically take in the news, and it becomes part of who we are. And I think about like, well, we silo ourselves so easily, and then we just consume and consume and consume more.
So many questions about this organization, and we're going to continue the conversation. But first, a quick break on Life Unscripted. Hey, I want to tell you about a product that I absolutely love. They are my Cozy Earth pajamas. They are just soft and buttery, and I can't tell you, I I would actually prefer to wear them all day long. Now, I've arranged a fantastic discount for my listeners of Life Unscripted. Enter promo code AKLIFE for 21% off any product you purchase at Cozy Earth. Once again, that's 21% off. Go to CozyEarth.com and use promo code AKLIFE, and let's get cozy.
We have an initiative nationally, and in Minnesota, we are, of course, taking it to a higher level than I think many other states are doing. We have a goal to have one of our Common Ground workshops on immigration in each of the 8 congressional districts in Minnesota. Now, to have a Common Ground workshop, you need a balanced panel of half reds and half blues to come together and spend about 5 hours together going through a series of exercises which are very powerful and lead to a document that we call the points of agreement. And those points of agreement include the values, the concerns, and the policy steps that everyone on the panel, all the reds and all the blues, said they can live with and that they agree to. And we've done a number of these workshops already in Minnesota. And the first time we did one in the East Metro Alliance, which is Washington and Ramsey counties, we came up with 21 points of agreement. The second time, we decided to do a second one because one of the members in the East Metro Alliance, who is conservative, and I don't think he would call himself a moderate conservative. I think he's further along toward the other side, said, we need to find some more reds who weren't. He said, we got so many moderate reds on that panel. And so we did another one, 21 points of agreement.
You're saying you did another one that included people that were further on either side?
28 the first time and 21 the second time.
Yeah, it was 28 the first time and 21 the second time. Here's the thing. There's a lot more common ground than we've been led to believe. And what's happening is we're being told what to think by pundits and people who have an aim either to make money or to get somebody elected. And so they're feeding us a lot of caustic language about the other side. So it makes it feel as though we don't have a lot of common agreement, but when in fact, I think a lot of our workshops would show that we do. And I would point out, we don't have to agree. Disagreement is actually a good thing. It's healthy. It makes good disagreement and good discussions make for a stronger democracy.
You seem to be chomping at the bit at some point of that. Scott.
So like your experience with Clay in the plane, and to be able to see several reds being able to speak unfettered and everyone else is listening around. And then the blues go in the side of the fishbowl and everyone listens to the blues talking to themselves about it. And then to see that we can find common ground issues in a well-facilitated event is like amazing. It's like we can do this. We can have experiences like you had with Clay. And I think it's easier than not, provided that you go into it with the right perspective of thinking, I can only change my own mind. I can't change someone else's mind. I don't have to worry about you changing my mind if you're blue and I'm red or whatever. And I can be there curious and trying to care about another person and find out more. So understanding that there's more common ground than we're led to believe. Like I said, it's so much easier to get motivated by fear and anger than it is by anything else. But then how can I stay calm enough to be able to do that? And so you were able to stay calm enough in that situation, even though your mind was thinking it. And it is something where we kind of fight our mind-body paradigm of, okay, this might be scary. I think I might want to leave. Or I need to defend myself, or I can defend my ideology. And it's like, they can't change your mind. Don't worry about it. Can you be okay with it? So the Common Ground Workshop, I think, is a really cool thing for people to experience, that things can go your way. And one of the things that we are doing with this thing, it's called Citizens Commission on Immigration. It's being done nationwide, but we're doing it in Minnesota, like Melinda said, to the 8 congressional districts, is that we'll take those 21 points of agreement or 15 points or 28 points of agreement and then bring it to the legislative office in that district, in that congressional district. So it's not about having any policy issue. It's about showing that we can agree, we can come up with points versus just the arguing that we see, whether it be government officials or anyone else just yelling at each other and never coming to something that we could actually come to agreement. And how can we do that in a well-facilitated way? And then even in Minnesota, we got the Civility Caucus, which provides practice, again, between Reds and Blues. We have the Problem Solvers Caucus in Washington. I would love to have more citizens say, hey, are you involved in the Citizens Civility Caucus? Are you involved in the problem solving? We'd love to have people that say, you know what, okay, I can show up at a meeting, but what can I do? And again, you're not about changing someone's mind. You're saying, hey, I'd like to be able to see my legislator be able to be part of this where you can learn to talk to the other side and listen. Or if for me in Congressional District 5, it's kind of hard. Could I actually ever talk to someone, any of my elected officials as a conservative?
The Civility Caucus, I'm sorry, by the way, is a body within the state legislature in which Republicans and Democrats have come together to sit down and get to know each other and to discuss issues. And so that is, it's separate from Braver Angels, but it's.
I didn't know it existed.
I know.
Yeah.
Not many people do, but they bring legislators together on a voluntary basis they went off and did karaoke one time. They sit down, they have a meal, they talk to each other. Sometimes they can even find, hey, would you co-sponsor this bill with me? So it's a wonderful thing in our Minnesota legislature. And one of our Braver Angels leaders, when she was in the legislature, she founded the Civility Caucus quite a few years ago. So it's going and it's getting stronger.
In Washington, they have the Problem Solvers Caucus, which is a similar thing where Republicans and Democrats actually work together. There's a number of stories that are in there too, which are kind of interesting. And one of them was a shared story like what you had mentioned. They talked about being on a plane. Oh, you're another legislator. You're flying to Washington, D.C. They talked the whole time. They did not ask, who are you? And then when they get to they had great conversations. They get to Washington, D.C. They get to the legislator. I don't remember if it was Congress or Senate or whatever. And then, of course, there you're separated. You put on each side physically, on each side. It's like, oh, I didn't even ask if you're a Republican or Democrat. I think there's some of that mechanics that we could change too. Like, can we just get to know someone? If we get to know each other and you say something that maybe is like, oh, it's like, well, yeah, but I know Alix, and it's like I'm going to give her a little grace and maybe ask her, like, well, what did you mean by that? Versus just, shutting you down. Right then, I'm done type of thing. Because it's like, I know you. So can we have a little grace for each other? Can we have some vulnerability to be able to be okay? Humility so that we could, I don't have to be right on everything. I'm not going to be right on everything. Maybe I can learn.
And I think that it's important, and I really like the idea of before these groups sit down together, that they have to agree to these certain standards or agreements. And that knowing that going into it, and that the point is not necessarily to change someone's mind. It's really to reveal, this is why I feel this way. These are subjects that are important to me. And that feels like already just knowing that, going into a group going, okay, we have these mutual agreements, so you can't really go past that. And I think that's inspiring to hear.
We basically call that the Braver Angels Way, which is a series of statements that we read out at the beginning of our meetings in the East Metro Alliance, for example, and other alliances do this. We call alliances, they're the local chapters, we call them alliances. But it's basically, we state our views freely and fully without fear. We treat people who disagree with us with honesty, dignity, and respect. We welcome opportunities to engage those with whom we disagree. There's more. I won't read all of them, but once you set the tone and set the structure for being able to sit down and talk to each other, people find it very empowering and invigorating. Like they come away with, oh, I can actually talk to. I actually might even like that guy.
Yeah, like we agreed on something, a subject
Sure.
I would never thought we would have agreed on.
Well, that's because we're too trapped in our silos here.
Yeah.
And that's particularly true of blues in Minnesota, because blues have dominated so long in Minnesota that they haven't even felt they needed to talk to the other side. And so that is one of the things that we're trying to change. I think blues might be willing to talk, but they have to actually not just be willing to talk, but really open up their minds to the possibility that there's another way of thinking about this that might have some legitimacy.
One way to elevate your look is by a pair of great eyeglasses. And I have a lot of them. I have prescription eyeglasses. I have sunglasses. Why? Well, because, I need to see, and also to protect my eyes from the bright sunshine. And I have found some very stylish eyewear from Aquila. Here they have eco-friendly frames, so many different colors. We've got classic black, and they are affordable. They're made in LA, but they're not just for movie stars. And I have a great deal for you, for all of my listeners. Just use the promo code AKLIFE, and you will get 10% off. 10% off of any of the frames there at aquila.la. You can also find the deal on my show notes. Just click on that link, and you get 10% off of Aquila eyewear.
The toxic rhetoric is coming from both sides, the extremes on both sides. And I think we need to recognize, all sides need to recognize that. And that's why the Reduce the Rancor, Reduce the Rancor tour was designed to help people understand that they don't need to use, or I would even hope pay much attention to that toxic rhetoric.
You're right. It is coming very strongly on both sides. You brought up rural versus city, and that those are two dynamics as well that are, blue tends to be more aligned with bigger cities and red with rural. I know that's not always the case, but that is also thrown into the mix of all of this. And I know you have some experience living in a rural community. How does that factor into us having these conversations? Like a city person talking to somebody from a small town that has different values.
I heard someone talk about in terms of blue, like Minnesota's been so blue. Well, I think the last election was like 45 to 47 or something like that. I mean, it wasn't, red to blue. So if you look at a big map, there's really no blue states. There's blue cities and there's red states. So if you look at like a map of Minnesota or most any states in there, and you look at like with the counties that are red and the counties that are blue, and it's pretty much been the cities are blue, more of the state, physical wise, leans red. I think when Melinda was talking about that we hear blue language so much of the time because the metro is blue, the media is coming from the metro. There's not a lot of conservative media, generally speaking, and I think a lot of the arts have a lot of blue in them. But that doesn't mean I don't want to be part of the arts or part of that world with it. But I'd like to be able to not be yelled at and screamed at, where you have artists that say, unless you believe without him saying you can't listen to my music or you can't watch my movies or whatever. That's just type of separating. I think what happens is that a lot of blues are louder, and me as a conservative, and it's not to state for everyone, but I think there's a lot of conservatives that just will say, you know what, if you got something you want to do, great, go for it. Just don't tell me what to do. But that doesn't help me as a conservative Brave Rangels when I want to have more reds at the table, more conservatives at the table, not so much for the red, but for the blues to be able to hear it. And what I found is that so many blues will come and say, hey, I need more reds here. Like we have mentioned that alliances or chapters. There's no better way to practice this than with real people in person to do it. So I'd encourage people if they could do that. And if we can talk about the dojo, AI is actually coming into it too. So if you can't get to something, it'd be good to talk about that before we had it. The ability, though, blues will tell me I don't have anyone in my circle that's not like me, that's not as a conservative. I don't even have someone I can talk to. And 20% of the families that do have someone and they have extricated someone in their house, it's like, well, just because you disagree. And so I would love to have more Reds at the table, conservatives at the table, just so they could show that, hey, we do care about our schools, we care about our kids, we care about our environment, we care about our state, we have a different way of maybe wanting to do this. When you talk about the president, and I'm going through the conventions for the first time ever. I've never done this before. And someone in the audience asked some of the candidates, so what do you like about current president? And I wish he would shut up, or I wish he would stop tweeting, or I wish he would. That doesn't mean it's a policy disagreement. Versus, I think the things that make people angry a lot are the things that he says on the blips. Now, I could be missing something here, and talking one-on-one with you, if you said, hey, Scott, tell me about it, what I am thinking, but I can't speak for everyone. So one of the things we talk about in Braver Angels as well is use I. Well, I can tell you how I think, and not use, well, we do this and they do that. And taking even some languaging out, oh, they're like that, or the other side's like that. It's like, well, let's just have a conversation between the two of us, and can we create a relationship? And for me, I want to have more relationships. It's really cool. It's fun. It's interesting to hear for it. And one of the points made as well in one of the meetings was, if you're having a conversation with other and you're really not liking something, do you want to make a point, or you want to keep a relationship? And it's not giving up yourself. But it's like, well, my daughters, I care more about them than anyone in the world. They don't think the same as I do. I still love them dearly. I want to keep that relationship. So does that mean I don't talk about certain things at certain times, but show them I love them? It's like, yeah, how can I do that with people around as well?
Yeah.
And
there's so much yet to get into, but we're going to take a quick break from Life Unscripted, and we'll be right back. I have a brand new skincare product that I want to talk to you about, and it's from Lavindus, and it even has pretty little packaging. I just got back from Arizona, where the sun and the heat and the dry air really did a number on my skin, and I always think that serum is the best way to go when it comes to nourishing your skin. And this one is from, you can see, Lavindus Amrutini. Isn't it a pretty little bottle? And it's Luminosity Dewdrop Serum, and it is, what's really wonderful about this is it smells really light and fresh. It's not, those heavy perfumes. You just put a little bit of this on, just kind of dab it on after you, of course, cleanse. And it just makes your skin feel nice and dewy. And we want that, right? It's springtime. And by the way, you can get 21% off if you use the code AKLIFE. Yes, 21% off, lavindus.com. You'll see the deal. Go to my show notes and get your skin ready for spring. This is a really lively, wonderful conversation, and I hope more people have them. Managing these conversations with people that you love, maybe they're your neighbors. I feel like a lot of people just decided, okay, I'm stepping away. I'm not talking to people. What would you recommend if, one of these very toxic, angry subjects come up, and we all know which ones they are, I believe. Language is important. What would you tell people as far as how to maybe manage that conversation? What should they think about it before they respond?
Well, again, the first step is to listen, to acknowledge what the other person is saying, but to actually get a full grasp of those skills, I would recommend that they take one of our workshops, the Skills for Disagreeing Better workshop. It's online. It's free. It takes about 40 minutes. It's not the actual workshop, which is far better and far stronger, but it would equip you with a little bit of an understanding of those four LAP skills: listen, acknowledge, pivot, and perspective.
It's a good start.
And if you join Braver Angels, which costs $12 a year, then you have access to a new tool that we have that's very exciting. It uses AI to help you generate a conversation with someone you disagree with, and you can kind of pick the levels. And when I tried it out before they introduced it, I found myself getting very riled up by the answers that I was getting from the person that I was engaging with. This was an AI thing.
Okay.
Yeah. You have to take some time to practice these skills. You have to take some, A, learn them, and B, practice them. That's why we have monthly local chapter meetings where people can come together and practice them in what I would call is a relatively safe space. We work every angle we can possibly work. So we're working with the Big Four, which are the state associations for city council members, county commissioners, school board members, and township hall board members. And we do a series of workshops for them on managing difficult conversations with constituents and colleagues. And yes, we are very concerned that this toxic rhetoric is being spewed at our elected officials of all stripes at all levels. And we are working on an initiative to deal with that. We're working with school districts.
Mm-hmm.
We're working with colleges and universities. One of the most heartening things that we have done is bringing together students from the very liberal Macalester College and the very conservative University of Northwestern St. Paul for a series of conversations over an academic year that began when both sides, students on both sides, were very skeptical and wary. And by the end of the school year, they were friends. They had a pizza bowling party.
Mm-hmm.
They had had some deep conversations, and they walked away not having changed minds about their views, but having changed their views about people on the other side. It was so successful. We're now in our second year of doing that. And it's the conversations have been even deeper and more impactful.
Are you getting more interest from young people? Because we know there's so much, on college campuses. It's always been a place where public debates or debates have happened. Are you finding that young people are like, okay, maybe we're seeing that this needs to happen on campus?
So we would do everything possible to get more young people in Braver Angels, if there's a way. So keep in mind too, Braver Angels Minnesota, we're all volunteers. There's no paid staff. So when Melinda mentions that we're doing everything we possibly could, if someone's got an idea out there, like, okay, how can we do this? For me, it'd be more interesting having my kids' ages at some of the events because I have a totally different perspective on it. So right now, there are not a lot of young people in Braver Angels, which is something I'd love to do. There are other organizations on college campuses that I've seen at some of the Republican led events, Turning Point USA and such. We've not broken into that. Not that we need to have that, but it'd just be nice because there's different experiences and different understandings of that. To answer your question earlier, though, that yes, elected officials we are very concerned that who would want to become an elected official if they're going to get threatened. And so there is something that we've been contemplating in the background of, is there something that we can do at Braver Angels to change people's perceptions of how they communicate with someone who wants to run for office, and how do we do that? It's it's a tough thing, and I'd just like to have people be able to say, you know what, hey, I got a different idea. Let's work together with it.
All right, we're going to take a quick break on Life Unscripted, but I want to hear more about visiting the small towns, and I have a couple questions there, so stay with us. We'll be right back. Do you ever have an energy drink and you realize, oh, that's a little bit too much caffeine? Well, here's an idea for you. Aspire. Aspire energy drinks are so yummy. In fact, this one is mango lemonade, and it's delicious. Half the caffeine, and it also has green tea, a lot of great flavors, and I've arranged a great listener discount for you, 20% off if you use the promo code AKLIFE. So 20% off of these Aspire drinks at aspiredrinks.com. You will love feeling inspired with Aspire. Some of these small towns that you visited, I know that I think one of you in an interview might have said it was like meeting different people because every town was different. Every town has a different personality. And when you get outside of the metro, what was that experience like? And do you have any stories that maybe resonate that you saw evolve in front of you that was really, I don't know, something that you want to share that's where you saw people from different perspectives really come together?
So in Worthington, We were fortunate in having a conservative pastor enlist a Republican women's group to get out the word that we were going to be holding an event in Worthington. As a result, we had a number of conservatives show up, including this one guy and his wife. He was wearing a MAGA hat and
Bib overalls. It was classic.
yeah, it was classic. And so during the course of the event, you pair off a red and a blue together. And so this gentleman paired off with another gentleman, a blue. Oh, I think he might have been a Peace Corps volunteer at one point, definitely a blue.
Yeah.
And the two of them had a conversation, and I think it was a productive conversation for them. So we saw that happen a number of times.
I remember one that we had an open house, and a couple of the people that showed up there couldn't believe that we could have conversations with those people, and how could I be? But they said in a small town, yeah, but the concept, I don't remember who brought up the concept of, well, if you were in a ditch, do you think people would ask, are you red, are you blue? Would you just help them out? And pretty much everyone said, you know what? Yeah, we'll help. I'll just help them. We're not going to ask. We're just going to do that. And I think that type of concept, that simple, like, you know what? I don't need to know this stuff. I can just help people. It was important to just say, hey, can we care on a base level about the person?
Yeah.
It's okay. It sounded better in my head.
Well, no. I think that's you're getting to the root.
Just
of
simple.
It. You want to kind of make it simple and human. I'm hoping that this group will get bigger. I'm hoping this can help. You have several events coming up. There's one in Minnesota. There's one nationally in Philly. Tell me what people can expect if they want to become a Braver Angel.
You just go to braverangels.org. There's a button called Join right in the upper right-hand corner. As I said, it is $12 a year. We love donations because it is a nonprofit. Your donations are tax deductible. We have a state website, which is mn.braverangels.org, and that lists all of our events around the state. We have chapters in Ely, Duluth, Lake City. We're in the midst of forming a chapter in Winona, and
The West Metro, the East Metro.
yeah. So we have
Dakota County.
So it's very easy. Everything is free. Almost everything is free. And so all you have to do is come to a meeting and see what you think. We hold debates. We hold common ground workshops, as we said, and just discussions and other kinds of workshops that can make a difference for you.
Wow.
And if someone's got some skill sets that they can help us with, like I said, it's all volunteer. It's like we are running our heads, butting into different things that we don't know what we're doing, but we're trying to do what we can. So if people have skill sets out there and they want to do something versus just complaining about it, my gosh, check in with Melinda and myself. We'd be ecstatic more than anything else, yes.
I strongly encourage people to do that. We've got elections coming up, a lot of concerns by people just considering the temperature. And this is one way. Seems like a great way to join Braver Angels. Scott, you had mentioned there you have a wish list of how Braver Angels can get involved in maybe some upcoming debates.
So Braver Angels does have what's called Braver Politics. It's one of the many, aspects in Braver Angels. And they do have facilitated candidate debates in elections in the past. We've never done that in Minnesota before. It's something I would love to see coming here at some point. We have an election coming up. It'd be nice to see a well-facilitated event that is not about changing people's minds, but about having good conversations with candidates on either side.
All right. Thank you, Scott, Melinda. We had a conversation. It wasn't uncomfortable, although you guys are, you're pros at this. But I just want to thank you for coming on Life Unscripted, and I encourage anybody, if you're interested, please, and put the word out to other people as well. braverangels.org.
Right. Thank you very much for the opportunity. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Alix.
Hey, thanks for listening to Life Unscripted. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and write me a review. Let me know what you think of the podcast. And when you buy any of the products and use my promo code AKLIFE, I get paid. And you help support the podcast.